we're going to begin with a look at the state of Sony, state of plays of Sony, state of Sony. Chris, what the
Yes.
fuck happened with Concord?
God. I'm no expert on any industry stuff, like neither of us are. We keep up on this things, but we're not experts. But it sure does look to me like Sony invested 7 years of development and approximately 200.
Was it
I think
100
it's
or
$200 million into Concord,
Jesus.
being a live service, online only, pretty blatant Overwatch copy that they then pulled the plug on after 2 weeks. Less than 2 weeks, I think. It was about 12 days.
Refunded everybody.
Mad. Absolutely mad. It's unprecedented for a publisher of this size. Like, Sony and a whole bunch of publishers, to be honest, watched games like Overwatch and then Fortnite get massive. However many years ago they kind of had their big boom, and essentially saw them as just infinite revenue streams, and then just bet the farm on striking gold with their own unproven IPs in what was at the time already an ever-growing and kind of immediately overcrowded genre of that sort of games as a service thing. There are industry reports going around that Sony were concurrently funding the development of 12 different games as a service titles, and the only one that's released and done quite well was Helldivers 2. Outside of that, Concord launched, immediately shut down. Others are kind of MIA. We never even heard about them. Some are on life support, like the Splatoon copying Foam Stars. I think that was also Sony. That was just bombed on release. And, a bunch have just quietly been cancelled, and we'll probably never ever hear about them until we have some expose in 10, 15 years' time.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know, in the last couple of years, we're seeing this big boneheaded shift to this model result in these just dead on arrival empires of dirt, not just from Sony, but if you think about Suicide Squad and the reception that's got, as much as I enjoyed the bits I played, the live service stuff was not well received.
Yeah.
Skull and Bones from Ubisoft was a stinker. Lawbreakers a few years back came out, immediately had no player base. Evolve, Anthem, there's lots of these games.
But also, there's no correlation with the quality of the game, because Concord got fairly decent reviews. Got like 7 out of 10s, 8 out of 10s I saw as well, and it was like, the game's really good. The characters are a bit boring, but honestly, you're not playing the games for the story, are you? I mean, name a character in Fortnite.
Well, I mean, Fortnite's an easy one, because just throw a dartboard at any poster of popular characters.
Point, actually.
They're all in there. But I think what's interesting is that neither something like Fortnite, or if you think about Destiny, is obviously a huge game in this kind of field, they weren't just immediate successes, and their success was also not a predictable thing. So it seems strange how much Sony have kind of tried to lean into this kind of thing to then fail. Those games have gone stratospheric in a way that their publishers, I don't think, could possibly have planned for to the scale they have ended up. And a lot of them had wonky periods of development or fallow periods before them being rejuvenated by updates or reworks, things like that. Like, most people won't even remember that Fortnite launched, didn't even have the Battle Royale mode. It was like a player versus enemy online thing. It was an unmitigated failure. Like, Epic were like, right, back to the drawing board, lads, because this is a disaster. And it took copying another genre and game completely to suddenly be massive. But it meant they had to kind of do something and invest some time and thought and money into saying, right, what do we do to kind of try and make something of this? And even early Destiny that I did play for, I don't know, probably only 10 hours when it first came out. But it had potential, but it felt really barren. It didn't have any of the kind of the thrust that people enjoy now, the big multiplayer stuff, all the infinite leveling opportunities and stuff like that. I think Concord, for that reason, is particularly astounding because, yes, it's kind of failed, and that can happen with these games. But by the industry's volatility that dictates, it's been cheaper for Sony to just shoot the project in the back of the head after less than 2 weeks than to try and do anything with it. And that seems quite worrying in terms of what is going on in the industry just generally at the moment.
Yeah.
Because people have dedicated huge chunks of their lives to making Concord and other games like this. If you're a developer that's been at this team for 7 years, it's probably pretty miserable to just rock up to work one day and be told, bad luck, gang. That's you fucked, that is.
Yeah.
Just out of nowhere, because I'm sure this was not a massive consultation. This was just higher-ups have said we're done. And then that's it. And there's hundreds of people that would have worked for tens of thousands of hours just to be told, no, you failed. And it's not necessarily their failure, because like you said, reviewed kind of okay. It's Sony's hubris and other publishers' hubris that is causing this kind of big, not kind of, what's the word? it's not going to cause like an industry crash or anything like that, but it's definitely going to make many projects fall to pieces, and a lot of people lose a lot of money and time before we get back to some sort of, level tabula rasa we can rebuild from. It's just, it's a strange time, I think.
Well, if Concord was a cataclysmic disaster, then what's happened since then for Sony makes even less sense, because Sony have just unveiled the mid-gen console refresh that we knew was coming. That is the PS5 Pro. It's more powerful.
Yeah.
It's saying the ray tracing will be better. It's saying you won't have to choose between high resolution or high frame rate anymore. And there's some AI-powered upscaling tech to make all games look and run better without needing any sizable patches or updates. A few things to note here. One, firstly, I thought that being able to have games in both 4K and run at 60 frames per second is what we were getting with the PS5.
That was certainly the promise.
Because we had to choose between the two on the PS4 Pro, and so it's puzzling that this still isn't actually a thing.
Yeah.
And also, Rockstar have come out and confirmed that GTA 6 definitely won't run at 4K and 60 frames per second on the PS5 Pro.
Yes.
Follow up. Looking at the comparison videos they showed in the presentation between the graphical upgrades, I can't tell the difference.
No, and that's not just because we are ocularly challenged.
No, but it's like there was nothing in there that made me go, oh, okay, third.
Yeah.
It cost 700 fuck wanking quid.
With no disk drive, remember?
With no disk drive, so that's 800 dick splitting quid.
And no vertical stand if you do want to have it.
850 quid. And the AI-powered upscaling that they showed off, one of which was saying Last of Us Part 2 remastered, which is a remastered PS4 game. I mean, I don't give a shit about any of those games. I've already played the ones I want to play. It's not going to make them better or more fun to play.
No.
Like, I don't know who is supposed to want this machine. Like, at this price point, I mean, it sure as hell isn't me. It's just spending the best part of $1,000 on a new machine. Build a gaming PC that will probably run rings around the console anyway. There is literally zero reason for me to want to get one of these, even if I could afford it, which I can't at the moment because I just bought a house. And as an avid gamer who also does gaming, or gaming-related stuff semi-professionally, who doesn't actually have a gaming PC, and I'm also an adult with disposable income, surely I am exactly the niche who should be wanting to buy one.
And yet.
Like, honestly, I reckon that the price point was £100 lower before they lost $1 billion cancelling Concord. And there's like, quick, can we just edit that PowerPoint, please? Just a second. Yeah, add a zero. Even if it was 500 quid, I still wouldn't want one.
I think
the stupid thing is, if they'd showed off Bloodborne being upscaled to 4K and 60 frames per second on the PS5 Pro,
here's your money.
I'd have happily spunk 800 quid up the wall. It's just like, who do you think these are for? Who do you think's wanting this? It shows like a real lack of connection with its audience, I guess.
I watched it out of kind of like a morbid curiosity, because I knew it was not going to be marketed at me. I kind of knew that kind of going in. I don't have too much to add to what you just said, but I do think, like you mentioned, the pricing is unfathomably misjudged at this stage. Like, there's talk that the PS5 is still, even at its current price, like a subsidized machine. So Sony are losing a bit of money, assuming they'll make it back on software and PS Plus and whatever. The Pro, on the other hand, is projected as being sold essentially at cost value, which is why it's got this higher ticket price. But this has never, to my knowledge, been the case for a consumer console. I could be wrong. Again, I'm not an industry expert, but as far as I'm aware, even the super expensive PS3, when it was launched, they were taking a loss on those machines. Because it was just the tech at the time. We hadn't scaled up to where we are now. The second point, that it doesn't include an optical drive as standard, I think is really troubling for multiple reasons. Like, one, it boosts the price even higher for those that need one, first and foremost. But I think this could mark the end of physical game sales completely for next gen if it sells even averagely well. If the attach rate for drives is a bit lower than it could be, I think Sony would just say, well, we won't bother next time. We're just going digital. And a greater concern, though, is that the disk drive conundrum makes me question again, who is the Pro for? Because most of the marketing in the mini presentation was centered around this idea that it was like, the PS5 you've got is good, but the Pro's going to be even gooder. And it's like, that was essentially it. And if those considering an upgrade from their PS5, like, again, someone like the two of us, we are adults with disposable income, we could potentially buy this machine. If we can't migrate our disk libraries from PS4 and PS5, what is the point? Selling to brand new adopters, maybe that's where they think they're going to make the money. But Sony don't have the same thrust that Microsoft do with Game Pass to make like an all digital machine at this stage viable, in my opinion. They just don't have the infrastructure. They don't have the buy-in. They don't have kind of the name recognition for what PS Plus is versus Game Pass.
Yeah.
And that last point, again, like you mentioned, the presentation was so shit at explaining what machine might do well. And if the benefits are so infinitesimally small, so as to need to pause a frame of gameplay and zoom it in 20 times to see a slight increase in clarity, what's the point? Genuinely, what's the point? I'd bet massive stacks of money too that outside of some first-party Sony stuff, cross-platform games are still going to end up targeting lower specs, like you just said for GTA.
Yeah.
Because no matter what the Pro is going to represent in terms of power, developers still need to offer some sort of parity, not only to now base PS5, but both Xbox machines. The Series S is significantly weaker than the X, which is, therefore significantly weaker than the PS5 as well.
Yeah.
And in some cases, multi-platform devs are also still thinking about low-powered hardware like the Switch or the Steam Deck if they're releasing on PC at the same time. So I don't think people care. I don't think people care enough to make this product worth, like you said, close to £1,000. It's just, what is it?
I know. I haven't seen any opinions of people saying, actually, I'm really excited for this.
No.
And I spend a lot of time, at least reading gaming communities and stuff like that. Certainly among like the professional journalism and things, I'm just like, nobody's saying, actually, no, hang on, guys, there might be onto something here. Nobody is saying that.
No.
And you think, at what point in the development of this console did they do any sort of like, what do you call it?
Proper market testing.
Market testing.
Yeah. Focus grouping or anything like that.
Focus grouping, anything like that. I mean, either they didn't do it, which is stupid, or they did do it and went, fuck it. Either way, bad decisions.
The response that I was really, really shocked by, I watched quite a lot of Digital Foundry content on YouTube, and they're all about kind of picking apart, tech performance and stuff like that. They're all about oomph and sheer power generally. They're the people that will say, bit disappointing, it couldn't hold 60 frames per second, it did drop to 59 and a few choice examples and that kind of thing. And yet I watched an hour-long chat for several of their hosts basically saying, who is this for? What is this price? What is the point? And if you're not even appealing to the people that are very much the ones who want the best stuff, I don't know. Will it be a total flop, or is it going to surprise us and actually fly off the shelves like the fucking PlayStation Portal, which I think is maybe the most unnecessary piece of hardware that's ever been produced by any console manufacturer?
Yeah, and still.
I just keep making noises. Generally, it's been a few weeks of just being quite shocked at industry news just again and again. Yeah, strange time.